Okay, ladies and gentlemen, well, very good to have you back here. We had a very successful event like this about a month ago, and basically what we're looking to do is to recapture it and to do something very, very similar. Our objective tonight is to answer two questions. We basically want to look at the South African economy and what is happening, and then we want to explore the opportunity of Calvin. We've got Tembi here, we've got Yaku and Hugo based in Cape Town, and we've also got Kennedy, my colleague, on the right here. Just before we get started, and Tembi, before you get into it, the last one we had fantastic feedback, and you know the whole environment here is to ask lots of questions, ladies and gentlemen. You've got a number of people that's all we do is we eat, sleep, and talk property. We've got lots of answers we can give you. We need the questions. Tembi is going to be trying to get as much information out of the guys that are here in Joburg and the guys that are based in Cape Town. Just before we get started, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, just in terms of how a webinar actually works. You'll see here you've got your screen, the blue screen, and then on the right-hand side you've got a little hand where you can put up a hand. It's just like in any normal presentation. You can actually ask questions, and then you can also ask questions there, and they'll come through, and we'll be able to answer them. We, not necessarily be able to answer them straight away, but certainly be able to go through the session, and certainly we'll have a question and answer time at the end. Just so that we get everyone very much into it, I'd like to just ask a quick poll. What is everyone looking for tonight? So if I launch the poll, what is it? Do you want information on the South African property market? Do you understand the opportunity in Calvin? Are you looking to buy a home? Are you looking to find investment opportunities? Or something else? What is it that you're looking for? Give us some indication, basically. I can see the votes are coming in here. Just so that everyone's aware, we've got 25% of people, up to 40% of people are looking at the South African market. It's quite an even spread, actually. We've got 43% information on the South African market. Hugo and Yaku, I hope you've got up to the task, because they want to know what's happening, and 71% of people want to find out what's happening in terms of investment opportunities. Let's just close that poll now. Quite a few of the people have voted. You can see now I'm just closing that poll and sharing the results. Just for everyone's purposes, you're looking at around 50% want information on the South African market, 13% want understanding the opportunity at Calvin, 13% want to buy a home, and 63% want an investment opportunity. So it gives us quite a good idea as to what's actually happening. And if I was to, basically, that's enough. I want to get started now. Tembi, I'm going to hand over to you. I'm just going to quickly hand over so that they can see the guys in Cape Town. Just 2 seconds so they can actually say hello. So Yaku, you guys are now becoming the presenter.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone. My name is Hugo Vermeulen. I'm the MD for iMortgage, and looking after all the finance for the investments you guys are after.
Hi, I'm Jaco Maritz from UWest. Welcome to the webinar.
Perfect. Okay, guys. Then let's move across. We're going to basically put it on to Tembi now, and Tembi, it's your show. And let us, how can we help? What questions can we answer for you?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining us on the show tonight. And to you four gentlemen, thank you very much for coming on as well. I'd firstly like to start with Kennedy, actually, as you are the sales and marketing executive at Calvin Manor. You're very hands-on at Calvin Manor. I just wanted to find out from yourself, what is the main attraction about Calvin Manor? I mean, when I'm coming to the site, what should I be expecting from my side?
The beauty of the site, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's a lot of nature that has been preserved by the actual developer. This being a lifestyle development, you'll find that there's a lot of nature, beautiful trees, and in the springtime that we find ourselves in now, it's a beautiful place to be. If you do have the opportunity to actually come through to the site and get a site tour, you'll actually see that it is one of the most amazing and beautiful places that you could find yourself owning a home. You can arrange a site tour through ourselves here at the office or calling me directly. Site tours are available at any point on request, and we're more than willing to accommodate your time and schedule.
So that would mean that weekends are available. We can give you a call on weekends, and anyone can come through and have a look at the site.
Definitely. On weekends, we're available from 11 till 4, generally on Saturday and on Sunday. And during the week, we tend to be available by appointment. And again, we're willing to accommodate your schedule. So if you want to come there first thing in the morning at 7 or after hours at 6, you just let us know, and we do everything we can to accommodate you.
That is great. Thank you so much, Kennedy, for your time. Thank you for letting us know how it all works.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Kennedy, thanks very much for that. And Jaco will go into a little bit of detail, but obviously UVest have their representatives as well in terms of helping the UVest clients.
Scott, handing over to yourself actually. I'd like to get us started on the questions. More than anything, I'd like to direct these questions to you, first of all. I'd like to know from you, Scott, there's a lot of talk about the economy, and it's raised a lot of concerns and everything. What is the current economic climate globally in South Africa, and how does it affect us as people and as a country?
Can I just qualify? You want to look primarily at the economy and not necessarily the interest rates for now, basically.
Yes, just for now.
I mean, look, ladies and gentlemen, I use a lot of feedback from a gentleman by the name of Kees Brockermans, who's the chief economist at FNB. For those of you that are interested, I would highly, highly recommend going to the FNB website /economics and reading up on it. I always joke, I did economics at university, but I learned more by following Kees Brockerman. He writes economics in an English way. And I just, I think it's a very valuable tip for people that want to know what's happening in the economy. And I basically went through a number of his different reports. And to answer your question, I mean, basically our South African Reserve Bank decided last week to keep the rates unchanged, which is quite a big impact. They believe that they're at a point now where the economy is getting to a more stable position. There's quite a lot of uncertainty still in the market, and so they've decided to keep the interest rates unchanged. They think that our inflation is going to enter the target zone of between 3 and 6% by early next year, and that it'll stay there until 2011. Now that has quite a big impact because it ultimately your inflation impacts on your interest rates. So certainly, and I'm not going to go into all the detail here because I've got a nearly 20-page report, but I think the most important thing is that what we have seen, and actually in a separate report here, in terms of talking about the whole economy, what he basically believes is that our stock market has reached the bottom, and actually reached the bottom in November last year. It says that our mining output reached the bottom in January of 2009. Our electricity output reached the bottom in February. Our manufacturing output at the bottom in April, and even nominal house prices appeared to start rising from July. And passenger car sales also went up in August. So to answer your question, in a holistic point of view, when one looks at the economy, we've certainly had a very tough 12 months, but we are starting to see, we certainly believe we're at the bottom and are starting to see, some of the upside. And when you read all the economic reports, he went on to say here, despite unemployment and the national income still falling through mid-year, the South African economy probably turned in May 2009. With the third quarter 2009 possibly being the first full quarter showing a small net gain in the economic GDP output. And he basically believes that this will continue to build through the fourth quarter of 2009. What he says in terms of the world economics is that the low global interest rates will continue. There'll be probably a weaker dollar, and although there'll be a lot of disorderliness in the market, there'll still be a tremendous amount of uncertainties. That we certainly, there'll be more liquidity coming into the market, and this will have big impact. And also for countries like South Africa, which are more high yielding in terms of people get more for their money, they see flows coming into the country, which is very beneficial for us. A lot of foreign investors will be looking to invest. Basically, the long and the short of it is that they believe that our interest rates will probably remain fairly stable, but that's where Hugo can give us his opinions. But I think on the whole, Tembi, to answer your question, when one looks at it, the four major risks that they spoke about in terms of the economy going forward, and just to bring them up here, firstly was the oil price. Obviously, we've got no control over the oil price, but they believed with what's happening in terms of the world economic recovery, it will stay somewhere in the region of around between $60 and $70. The second thing they're worried about is food prices. There is quite a lot of concern next year there could be a drought, not only internationally but also in South Africa, and that will obviously put up prices. They're worried about unit labor costs, so effectively, the labor market wanting to put up their salaries, more so than inflation, which will affect inflation. And then lastly is the rand, and what is actually going to happen with the rand. And from all intents and purposes, it actually looks like the rand is going to strengthen. And by that, it will actually counter some of the other things we spoke about with regards to the drought and the oil. And that's, really, you haven't asked me about the interest rates, but ultimately where they're looking at with the interest rates is they're currently at 10.5%, and Kees Brockerman sees them traveling in a bracket of about 8.5 to 12% over the next 24 months. So I don't know if that answers your question, but in a nutshell, a lot of uncertainty, but we're starting to come through it, and that growth is starting to come back into the market.
Scott, that's actually very interesting. I mean, another question that I have is, does the political climate have any effect on the South African property market?
Yeah, look, certainly. Jaco, I don't know what your thoughts are on that one. I mean, I think, particularly with residential property, it's all about confidence. Jaco, do you agree with me on that?
Yes, definitely, Scott. The confidence, political stability is a big factor in the country. Also externally, especially with the World Cup coming up, and buying property, there's a big factor of stability in the country.
I think, and when you talk about the political component of it, that stability is very, very important, basically. So, when there's political stability along with economic stability, then people feel confident and they buy houses. That's the best way to describe it. So, in terms of our political stability, there is obviously uncertainty with regards to the labour and service delivery, etc., and a lot of that there is going to be an issue because the economy is shrinking and there's not as much jobs and service delivery, and I think that is going to add to the uncertainty, and it will hold things back until people feel comfortable that there's clarity going forward. That's not necessarily saying there's not opportunities.
All right. Another thing is the interest rate. We've touched a bit on it. I'd like to find out from yourself and Hugo as to how that affects me as a South African. How does the interest rate affect me?
Okay. I mean, can I pass that question to Hugo? I mean, just so that everyone's aware, I mean, Hugo, I met 5 years ago and was very senior in ABSA and with regards to the home loans in ABSA. So, I mean, I think Hugo is the best one to be able to answer that question. Hugo, you're up.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Scott, can you just repeat the last bit? It was a bit unclear.
Basically, what has happened with interest rates, and how does that impact Tembi as a person in South Africa? What difference does it make to her? She's not interested in what difference it makes to the economy. What difference does it make to her personally?
Okay, yeah. To put it in simple terms, the interest rate 2 years ago was about the same as currently at about 10.5%. Interest rate from there went on to increase to levels at about 15.5%. Now, if you just take, that's 5%. So if you divide that back into the 10%, basically, that's an increase of about 50%. Same again now, the interest rates are down to about 10.5 currently, and like you said earlier, Kees Brockerman and John Lewis from FNB, which I also rate quite highly, they're suggesting that it will go between the levels of 8.5 to 12.5 without any concessions. That's just primarily the prime rate. So basically, if you want to put it in simple terms, currently, if your repayment was on 100,000 Rand, which was in the region of 1,500 Rand, it's now basically down to about 1,000 Rand if you take it on the prime rate at 20 years. So it's a 50% reduction from December last year till now. So qualification-wise, it makes pretty much easier to qualify. And in the past, where you might not have qualified for a bond, certainly now you do qualify. The banks also were quite strict at that point in time, 6 months to a year ago. We're seeing that they're easing up quite a bit with FNB and Nedbank introducing that they're back to 100% loans to the market, below 2 million and 3 million respectively. In the past, they would have granted you between 80 and 90%. So that will also give you an indication that the banks are quite willing to help people in the market below 2 million.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, we do have the World Cup 2010 coming up. How is that going to impact South Africa and the South African property market? I mean, how will it impact on us? What are the advantages of the World Cup, the 2010 World Cup?
Let me answer that and then I'll hand over to Jaco because I'm interested as to what Jaco's opinion is. I mean, look, personally, if you look back over different Olympics and World Cups, they do have quite a massive impact. But I think, certainly from a South African perspective, I don't see house prices in Johannesburg or Cape Town going through the roof quickly because they're close to a stadium. What I think is going to happen is there'll be a catalytic effect of people around the world realizing the opportunity in South Africa. And so I believe it won't be like what happened in Paris, where apartments in Paris went up by between 50 and 100% in the space of 12 months from the Soccer World Cup. I think it'll be far more like a Barcelona, where in 1992 they had the Olympics, and within 3 years something like 126,000 British people returned to Spain and bought property. And it's all well and good that if people know that actually the property boom in Spain took place right through the 90s. And I believe the catalyst to that was the Barcelona Olympics. And I think South Africa is going to have the same sort of thing. Millions of tourists are going to come out here, realize the value, and then think, shit, this is a really lovely place to be involved with or to buy into, or even if nothing else, to come on holiday to. And even those that don't come out, it will be like the Cricket World Cup. People that didn't even enjoy cricket, they sat back and those commentators had the beautiful Barbados background. Without a word of a lie, they're going to be sitting in the V&A waterfront, Table Mountain as the backdrop, and people will be like, yo, that's a place I really want to go on holiday. So I don't think it'll have a massive short-term impact, but certainly a very good positive impact medium to long-term. I mean, Jaco, what's your thoughts on that?
Scott, I definitely think it will have a huge impact. I don't think South Africa has seen anything of this kind before. I really think that we should definitely go and sorry, Scott, I'm quickly.
Sorry, what did you say, Jaco?
Sorry, my webcam just went down quickly. 1 second. Can you see me again?
Not yet, but talk anyway while you're doing it.
All right. Scott, I think the impact is still, South Africans don't know what to expect from this, but I really think it will have a huge impact, not only for the people coming here and providing a lot of jobs and so forth during the World Cup. I think the infrastructure development that is long overdue in South Africa is now getting developed. I think it will have a long-term effect on the way South Africans do business, travel, see their own country. I also think with all the people visiting, I just want to echo what you said as well. I think it was an example of Barcelona. I think we can expect much of the same. A lot of people will make the trip to South Africa. They will go back with brilliant reports, hopefully, and then their friends and families will also come and buy property in South Africa. This will definitely see us going on par with better prices in the country, lifting up our growth rates and all of that. I definitely think this will have a huge impact.
Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Coming from the three of you, yourself, Scott, Hugo, and Jaco, I'd like to find out, any predictions from your side, any thoughts, any facts that you might have going forward for the property market here in 2009 and moving on to 2010.
I thought you were going to ask me who's going to win the World Cup. Look, in terms of the economic reports, and following on from what Jaco said there, I do think a lot of people around the world are going to obviously understand the opportunities within South Africa. But I think he touched on something that's far more important. The billions and billions of rand that's been spent on infrastructure, which, when you read Kees Broekman's reports, and I'm not going to bore people with economics now, but he believes that we're actually about to enter another golden decade. And he says if you look back over the last 10 years, and we know we've had great growth and everything over the last 10 years, he believes the next 10 years is actually really going to outperform the last 10 years. And the reason being is that when you think about it, over the last, we grew and then we ran out of electricity, for example. The roads couldn't keep up. Developers couldn't build because there was no electricity, there was no water, et cetera, et cetera. what Yaku touched on is so important. That infrastructure is now going to be in place and allow for that prosperity to take place. Even with the economic slag that's taken place, there will also be capacity in terms of labor, skilled labor. And so what he basically talks about is that the next 10 years is going to see great growth, basically. And if you're looking in terms of 2010, this year they believe our economy will grow at about -2%. Next year at about 2.5%, and then in 2011 at about 3.5%. The other major impact that he speaks about is that they believe that South Africa is currently only about 50% urbanized. Okay. Now they reckon that another 10 million people are actually going to be coming to the cities over the next 5 to 10 years. Now you asked about property. That has a massive impact on property, and the fundamentals of supply and demand will be really in the favor of property buyers, property investors, because there's not enough good quality property, and particularly with what's happened with the current recession, a lot of developers have stopped developing. It's only the really big, powerful and developers that have the foresight and the capital to continue developing, like someone like an MSP. Most of the middle tier guys have just pulled out the market. They've got no access to money. So what you've got is these more and more people coming to the city. There's more growth with regards to the infrastructure, and yet there's not that much supply in terms of properties, and that's where you get property price growth. Okay, so Jaco, I don't know what your thoughts are on that. I mean, the average growth for the last 30 years, year on year, in property has been around 12%. We've seen just close on a negative growth for the last 12 months, but I think that we'll see it returning pretty quickly, certainly to inflation, which will be, I mean, we've just seen there that nominal prices have improved, but how long it's actually going to take to get back to around the 12%, I don't know what Jaco thinks, but a lot will also rely on Hugo and when the banks start lending, because that's the biggest thing that's holding us back at the moment.
Thank you very much for that.
Jaco, what's your thoughts on that?
Scott, I definitely think the market is changing as we speak. We see a lot of upturn, and I really think that excuse me, we will see changes shortly.
Yeah, Scott, if I can just quickly come in there as well. From a mortgage side, what I've seen over the couple of months, they were quite tight. The lending criteria was strict. Self-employed clients based overseas, certain banks even didn't want to go that route in lending them some money and that kind of thing. But while we were under pressure, getting bonds and you guys getting units moved, the same is happening at the banks. They're not getting their pipelines currently full of business. They need to keep up that machine and get it full of business. And currently, they realize that they need to pump up the volumes to put business on the books. And I'm quite frequently in conversations with the seniors guys at all 4 major banks, and most definitely there's a change in attitude from their side, wanting to do business rather than not wanting to do business. So yeah, I tend to think the next 6 to 12 months will be vital for the business, but for the next 2 years, I think business will be great. We already can, on our volumes, it's more than tripled over the past 3 months than 6 months ago.
Perfect. Okay, Timmy?
Thank you, gentlemen. Another question that I have for the 2 gentlemen in Cape Town. I wanted to find out from the both of you, what is the current state of the property market in Cape Town? What is going on in Cape Town at the present moment?
Did you guys hear that?
Yes, we hear.
No, did you hear the question? What is happening in the Cape Town market at the moment?
Scott, like I said before, we definitely seeing an upswing in the property market. We're seeing that people are coming to site more often. They're coming to our investment seminars more often. Also, inquiries has gone up quite a bit. That just shows on our figures where we've shown yet another month of about a 30% increase on our applications. And I definitely think that people is looking at property again with different eyes. I think the interest rates definitely help this, and I think the prices being what they are at the moment, we find very affordable housing inside in Cape Town specifically. I think that this is generating more sales.
Okay.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for that. Given what we've heard now at the present moment, what you are saying is it is a good time to be investing in South African property. Where would be the best place to be investing here in Johannesburg?
Sorry, who's the question for?
That's to all you gentlemen, actually.
Okay. I mean, basically, you were saying, I mean, look, the key is, Timmy, I mean, it goes back to what I said in terms of you want to be close to where people's place of work is, and you want to be close to where, you know, they want to go for entertainment, etc. I mean, anyone that's driven around Johannesburg in the last 12 months, it's an absolute nightmare on the roads. And, you know, personally, the best market at the moment is that burgeoning middle class, you know, the price bracket from sort of 400,000 to $1 million. That's where people are looking to buy. That's where they're looking to rent. So, you know, you want a combination of the right price bracket and location, basically. You know, you want to be near where people want to work. And, you know, people are now getting bored of sitting in traffic for an hour and a half to get to work. And they're willing to pay that little bit more, you know, to be closer. I don't know if that answers your question in terms of, you know, where one's looking, basically.
Okay, that's good for me. It's fine, thank you. I'd like to get more into the Calvin Manor, the new development. As we do know, it's Calvin Manor, Sandton area. I want to acquire more knowledge about that and just be able to ask questions which you guys, you gentlemen, will be able to give me the answers to. I'm going to start off first with yourself, Yaku. From my understanding, Calvin Manor is a sectional title development. Who is the developer of Calvin Manor, and how credible is the developer?
Yes, Tembi. Yes, Tembi. The developer is MSP Developments in conjunction with Aquacore. They will be developing the Calvin Manor website, the site. The developers, MSP, has been going quite a while. They since inception was in 2001, and they built mostly in Cape Town, but they've started building in Johannesburg as well. This is their second project at the moment, and they're doing this in conjunction with Aquacore, which is a well-known name in Johannesburg already. And I think they're bringing a good product to the market, and we're looking forward to it.
Okay. Hugo, you might be able to assist me with this question. I wanted to find out, the developer has priced Calvin Manor at a very reasonable price. Now, I want to know from you, what did the banks pre-value Calvin Manor at?
Well, then to answer you that, that's actually quite easy. Calvin Manor will consist out of basically 3 phases, phase 1, 2, and 3. Initially, we are kicking off with phase 1 and 2, which is blocks A, B, C, and D, consisting of about 120 units. They are all priced at the same price, and then the last phase, the units will increase with about 10%. The banks normally do a security valuation. So what they will do is they will go out, have a look at the property, and if they give you a loan, they want enough security to cover their loan, and all the banks are happy with the prices that's been offered to them, which is offered to the market. And like I said, phase 3, with the increase of 10%, the banks are also happy, and basically you can work from that.
Scott, as you've already touched on the fact that location is very important, as a purchaser in Calvin Manor, what are the communal points that I'm looking at, the actual nodes? I mean, where would I be able to get to? How long would it take me? Can you be able to touch on that? Can you tell me as to the most important ins and the outs from Calvin?
No, perfect. I mean, look, personally I sat in my own car and I drove. For those of people that know Sandton, you've got the McDonald's on the corner of Rivonia there, right next to Investec. and from there to the site is 5.7 kilometers. So, in terms of driving there, it's a very easy drive down Rivonia Road, and ultimately getting down south and then onto Marlborough and then into Southway, basically. It's 5.7 k's. The beauty is also we've got the car train, which will be finished next year, and you're literally within walking distance of the Marlborough station. There's also going to be a rapid bus transport link which comes down Southway Road. So, it's very much that model of living in London, walk out of your house, jump on a bus, straight through to the station. Now, that Marlborough station is going to be very, very important, and I actually just want to bring up a slide here so that everyone can see what I'm talking about. Because effectively, for those of you who don't know, the car train is actually a three-legged, hang on, let me just get it up here. There we are, so everyone can see it. So the car train is actually three-legged, and you can see here's the airport, and this is Pretoria, and then this is the Johannesburg CBD. Now, Marlborough is actually the intersection between all 3 points. So you can live here, and by jumping on a train, you can go straight to the airport, you can go straight to Pretoria, you can go straight to Sandtons, which is one stop away, and you can go straight through to Rosebank and then through to the centre of town. So, it's very important from that intersection point of view. And, just a thought, that there'd be a good market for corporate lets where people want to effectively stay close to the station. They can get to the airport, they can get to Sandton, they can get to Pretoria. And there's nothing comparable in the area that one looks at. And then lastly, just in terms of, there's a lot of information on the website, but there's a lot of good schools in the area. You've got a lot of good shopping areas like Woodmead and that, that are literally right on your doorstep. And then, it goes without saying, Sandton is the financial hub of Africa. It's where the stock exchange is. It's where most of the big banks have their headquarters. It's people could not argue the fact that it is the #1 destination in Africa in terms of both business and play. It's got all the top restaurants, all the top shops. You probably know those shops pretty well, Tembi. But and I think the important thing is that that's a huge positive for people. That they live on that doorstep. It's such a cliched thing, but that live, work, play. They're right there. And as Kennedy brought up earlier, and I too was there this morning, the difference is, though, it's so close to all those nodes. And I even forgot the airport. The airport's 20 minutes away by car. You're right next to Dooley's Interchange, which is the intersection between the N1 and the N3 and the M1. So you've got almost access to every point, basically. And yet this piece of land is so quiet and so tranquil, and all the old trees are there and the birds are there. And, you literally feel like you're living in a park, yet you're on the doorstep of all these nodes.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Another question that I have is, Calvin Manor offers 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments. I wanted to know, what is the difference in price range? Because there are apartments for $699,000 and also apartments for $709,900. What is the difference between those two?
Do you want Jaco to answer that, Jeff? Jaco?
Yes, Scott. Just to make sure that I have it, she wants to know what the difference is between the 699 and the 709.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Basically, the units are exactly the same. The only difference is that the ground floor units are slightly more expensive because it has the exclusive use area at the bottom, which basically opens into the gardens that will be at Calvin Manor.
Okay. And just to add to that, also the ones on the sides that have the windows down the sides.
All right.
So it's,
That's
it just makes them a bit more spacious, effectively, because they've got more light coming in from the sides.
Okay. And how big is a Calvin Manor apartment, size-wise? What would I be looking at? Yeah.
The apartments are 61 square meters. And that's a spacious 2-bedroom. We've optimized the size on the plans to make it as spacious as possible with that. I don't know if Scott can bring us up a plan there. But it's quite spacious with having a central living area and open plan kitchen with 2 bedrooms walking out from that.
Okay, another question that I have on my side. I mean, I do know that there's going to be a certain kind of security system, Yaku. What kind of security system will Calvin Manor have?
Tell me, just to answer that. that question again, definitely the security system. That will be electrified fencing as well as access control. There will also be patrolling security guards in the yards.
Okay, thank you. Question for you, Scott. Construction of Calvin Manor, when does that start? When is expected completion? And are we looking at the exact dates that are being projected at the present moment?
Look, the expected timescale is to start towards the end of the year, and it's a 12-month project. So it's looking to complete towards the end of next year. Obviously, there's a few variables with any developments. One is obviously the bank financing, and most importantly, getting the end user finances through. The sales have gone better than expected, so that's not a problem. The mortgages are starting to come through. The developers are actually already talking with the mother bond suppliers, Investec Bank. So everything's on track, and it looks like should be staying on that schedule effectively. Basically, people planning to take occupation transfer towards the end of next year. I did just want to mention, I don't know, are you going to talk about the amenities?
Yes,
okay.
I do have a question actually.
Okay.
I do. That was actually one of my next questions.
Okay.
What communal amenities does Calvin Manor have to offer?
Yeah, look, I think the key there, and like Yaku said, obviously security is a very important component, but it's got a lot of lifestyle aspects as well. You know, it's got a swimming pool, it's got a clubhouse, it's got a creche, you've got a running track all the way around. There's a multi-purpose tennis court, which is a tennis court with a basketball, and then as you know, the most important thing in my opinion is they've left all the greenery. You know, I'll show you some pictures at the end there that I took this morning. But you know, so you've got that whole lifestyle component. But you're not paying a huge amount of money for it, basically.
Okay. Hugo, I've got a question for you, actually. From my understanding, to secure a unit at Calvin Manor, the deposit is 15,000 Rand. Now, from there on, how does the finance work? What are the procedures that I have to follow in order to be able to get financing for a Calvin Manor unit? And 100% financing, as I understand, that is what you are offering.
Tembi, just quickly on that. First of all, what will happen, I'll explain the procedure up till where bond finance, the application for that will start. First of all, when the client is interested, he will speak to one of the sale consultants. He'll sign a reserve form, and the certain unit that he will be allocated to him as indicated by the client. He'll have 3 days to pay his deposit. After that, he's got another 7 days to provide the developer and the sales guys with his offer to purchase. Once the seller and the purchaser has signed the sale agreement, it will be given through to my department. We will contact the client, and just quickly on documentation required, we need the client's latest payslip, copy of his ID, copy of the sale agreement that the developer provides to us, and the last 3 months bank statements to show where his salary is deposited. From there, we will go, as soon as we've got that documentation, that's normally where the hold-up is currently, to get all the necessary documentation from the clients. Because some clients buy in joint names, some guys buy in their trusts, and we need those documentation, etc. But we take them through the whole process, what documentation we require from them. And then once we submit to the banks, it normally takes anything from 5 to 7 working days to give us an answer in principle. And to finalize everything, it's up to 10 to 12 working days. The client will indicate to us on the application actually what his requirements are, if he's got any deposits or not. So what will happen is, let's say for argument's sake, he buys a unit for 699,000. I'm just for this VC purposes, I'm going to make it 700,000 to make it a round figure for easy reference. He's already paid us 15,000. If the client indicates us, for example, he only needs finance for 650, we will apply at the banks for only 650. We will ask the client what is his preference. Does he want him to go to his own bank where he banks, or do we need to have a look at different options and different quotes at the different banks for him? Then let's say it's a perfect scenario. The bank, let's say the client banks with ABSA or one of the other three banks, that they come back and they say, okay, no, that's fine, we'll grant the client 650,000. The client's already paid us 15,000. The sales people and the admin people, in conjunction with the attorneys, will then call for the difference, the 35,000. And that can be paid to the attorneys in their trust account, or they can provide us with a guarantee for that 35,000. It goes to the transfer date and registration of the bond. That will then become payable to the attorneys, and on registration those monies will flow to the developer. If the client applies for a 100% loan, we still are going to require the 15,000 because that's a reservation deposit, and that just shows commitment from the client's side. For example, one of the four major banks, or maybe Investec or Imperial Bank, because they also finance on these developments. Let's say, for example, the client gets a 100% loan, in this scenario 700,000. The 15,000 won't be refunded to the client until registration. That money will only be payable back to the client once the bond register and all the money that was due to the developer was paid. Only then the client will receive the monies back. And that's as plain and simple as can be.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hugo. I'd like for us to talk figures as well. If I am looking at purchasing into Calvin Manor, apartment is 699,900. What will my monthly bond repayments be on a property like that?
Sorry, Timmy, can you just, what amount did you ask me to quote on?
I was asking, if I purchase into Calvin Manor, what would my monthly bond repayments be for a property like Calvin Manor?
Okay. That's very easy. For example, I'm going to use 700,000 again. If you're currently working on our interest rate, which is 10.5%, and that's how I normally quote to the clients, 10.5% over 20 years. And I'll get back to that now. But if you take 10.5%, 20 years, and you work on a loan amount of 700,000, you're working on plus minus 1,000 Rand per 100,000. So in this scenario, it will be about 7,000 Rand. But one must just bear in mind that's quoted on prime rate of 10.5 and 20 years. Some banks do offer you 25 or 30 years, then that repayment will decrease. You must also bear in mind, if you get a lower loan than that, the amounts subsequently will be also lower. The banks will also, from time to time, offer you a concession, being a bit of a lower rate than 10.5. For example, you can get a loan for 700,000 at a rate of prime less 0.5%. Then it will be obviously at current status 10%, and that will also influence your payment to be a bit lower than what I've quoted. But the best way currently for clients at 10.5 over 20 years, it will work out at about 1,000 Rand per 100,000.
Thank you for that. Scott, coming back to you. The levies, how much would I be paying for levies at Calvin Manor?
You love this question. You're looking at, I think if I remember rightly, it's 493 Rand a month.
So plus minus 500 Rand.
Plus minus
What
500
do those
Rand.
levies include?
Look, in terms of the one thing it doesn't include is you still have to pay your rates to the council, basically. So one thing that I've always worked on, and like Hugo just spoke there, a rule of thumb is generally 0.1%. So on 700,000 Rand house, you know, it's going to cost you about 700 Rand a month, and that includes your council rates, etc., etc. The levies, in terms of what you're looking at from a Calvin Manor perspective, is what you're paying to the body corporate, and it basically includes for things like the security, the landscaping, looking after the building. I stand to be corrected, it doesn't include the water though. It doesn't. And so you know, and like obviously the upkeeping of the clubhouse, etc., etc. Have I forgotten anything there?
No.
These things always change a little bit, but yeah, I mean, look, that's pretty much the stock standard in terms of what you're looking for. So you know, whether you're looking to buy it or use it as an investment unit, it's only really the electricity that you need to take into account as well.
Okay. Now another question for you, Scott. Is Calvin Manor a good investment just for an investor, or is it a good investment for a first-time homeowner as well? Does it work hand in hand?
Yeah, look, I think, different people are looking for different things. So the first-time homeowner is looking for a very affordable product close to their place of work where Hugo can help them get the best mortgage they possibly can and put down as little money as possible. You know, if they go out and they buy an existing home, at the moment, if nothing else, they've got to put down a deposit, plus they've got to pay the transfer fees. So they've got to have quite a lot of cash up front to be able to buy it. Plus here, they put down a small deposit, and it's only going to transfer in another year's time. So it allows them time to save some more money, towards, if nothing else, buying their furniture, etc., etc. All the important things that people need to take into account when buying that first home. So it really does facilitate and help. It's also, for the younger person, it's got all the facilities. I mean, I live in a complex built by the same developer. There is nothing better than coming home, firstly feeling very safe, because you're in a security complex, and secondly being able to use the gym and the clubhouse. It's fantastic, and so, I can't say anything more other than the fact I actually live in one myself, and it's great. It really does provide that first-time homeowner with what they're looking for, basically, which is that lifestyle component. I've mentioned the tranquility as well, which I just love it. I was there this morning. It looks absolutely amazing. As I said, I'll show the pictures. But then from an investor's perspective, then it's all about the numbers. Then you're not interested in anything else. You're interested in the numbers and the fundamentals. And the numbers really, really work because in Sandton, for example, there's very little property that you can buy under 20,000 Rand a square meter. And here you're looking at around 12,000 Rand a square meter. So you're looking between 12 and 14,000 Rand a square meter. So you're looking at very affordable prices, and yet the rental returns are good. You're looking at yields of over 9%. So, as an investor, and those investors that talk the language of returns effectively, it ticks those boxes. And then as an investor, you want to look at the medium to long term in terms of where are you going to get significant growth. And one needs to understand that it's always where infrastructure growth is, where you've got population growth, where there's demand, close to schooling, close to work, etc. And it ticks all those boxes as well. So, I believe it's a product that really suits both needs and are very comparable to both needs, basically.
You've actually answered my question about how much a square meter is at Calvin Manor. I'll actually move on to the next one. It's actually for Yaku. I want to find out from yourself, Yaku. I do understand that in the 699, all costs are included in that price. Are there any other costs that I should know about or costs that will be coming up that I should know about now that I would have to budget for?
You guys still awake, Cape Town? Hello? I mean, just until we wait and hear back from them, I don't know what's happened to them there, Tembi. I mean, Yaku, can you hear us there?
You know?
Okay, I mean, the question, did you hear the question? It basically was, other than paying the 15,000 deposit, are there any more costs other than that one needs to take into account?
Scott, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay. Tembi, I'll answer that. On the property purchase side, there's no other, everything is inclusive in the 699,900. Just maybe on the bond finance side, which is excluded, but the banks normally don't make you pay that in cash. There's an initiation fee that varies from bank to bank, and it will anything from 4,000 to about 5,700. The limit is 5,700 under the NCA regulation. Anything else than that is some banks might require to have the necessary life cover. Unfortunately, once again, I can't tell you upfront that that depends on your risk and the profile at the banks. And then other than that, there's a monthly service fee of 28 Rand 50. Some banks it's 37 Rand 50, depending. That's for your statements and things like that. All the banks are more or less the same. Once again, that gets debited to your account. Over and above that, there's no other costs involved.
Thank you for that, Jaco. Scott, I'm actually going to ask all three of you gentlemen. I want to find out from you, as a first-time home buyer, what should I be looking out for and what should I be looking for as a first-time home buyer?
Sure. That's an interesting question. Look, I think the most important thing as a first-time home buyer is to get as much information as possible. You know, you need to ask people, you need to read books, you need to come on webinars like this because it's a big investment. It's probably the biggest investment you've ever made in your life before. So the key is to get the information, and there's a lot of skeletons out there that will tell you whatever you want to hear effectively. So you need to check up that information, and I think the same with Jaco and from UVest and myself from RPS. We've really specialized in helping people and provide them with that information so that they can make that choice. I mean, you've been very involved in that website we've built on how to buy a home, which is very much just pure information on actually how to do it. But I would always say, no one ever learned to swim by reading a book. At the end of the day, you do have to get involved. You will make mistakes. I guarantee it. I'm sure both Jaco and Hugo have got lots of stories, and we can all sit here tonight and talk about them. You will make mistakes. You will lose some money. But again, you didn't learn to swim without jumping in the pool. So that's the important thing. But the most important is really just to listen to the information, to learn the information, and then to check out the information that people give you. Because, it's happened many times where, I get told by a rental agent I'll get X rent, and then I end up getting something completely different because, that's just the way that the market is, Jaco, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, if there's anything from your side.
Yes, definitely, Scott. I think it's really a big thing to do your homework. That's the most important thing about property investment. Make sure that you've done your homework. We do most, like yourselves as well, IPS and UVest, we do the homework of the clients, but we prefer to check out everything themselves. Check out the tour, you've seen what they can do, make sure that they are reputable, make sure. Also look at the agents. If you're dealing with companies like ours, we try and do everything for you. We try and make sure that you get a one-stop shop from start to finish. We do the process, and obviously from our side, feedback is the food of champions. So I definitely think we have to tell our clients what they need, just to keep them updated with it and make sure that they feel comfortable in helping them through the process. It's your client to be taken through the process rather than learning hard lessons by himself. We've done most of the pitfalls ourselves, so we try and steer the clients clear of those. And there is definitely pitfalls, especially if you don't deal with reputable companies, and then you might find yourself in a pickle later on.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jaco. Very, very interesting. Scott, I'd actually like to see those lovely pictures that you were talking about at Kelvin Manor. Let's see what they actually look like, if you could please take us through.
Let me show you quickly. I just want to show you some of the artistic impressions so you can get an idea of what it is that they are actually trying to achieve. So, this here is a picture, and you can actually see it's that very modern contemporary buildings, but in amongst all the trees, and it gives you an idea, generally 3-story walk-ups and 6 different blocks. And then when one looks through here, that's a picture of the pool with the clubhouse, and then that's a picture internally of what it actually looks like inside the clubhouse. That's the gym, so the fully purposed gym that they've got. And then this just gives a layout, and I'm not going to go into too much detail, but you've got the clubhouse there, and you've got block A, B, C, D, E, and F. And, again, I highly recommend getting to site. We've got pegs in the ground. You can actually see exactly how those are laid out. In terms of the finishes, this just gives you an idea of the layouts and some of the look and feels, looking towards the kitchen. And I mean, the one thing that the developer's gone for is that even though they've gone for the affordable, the market, they've provided very upmarket finishes. like granite tops, etc., etc. So you can actually just see those from the pictures. But I wanted to answer your question. That there's the layout of the unit. So you've got the 2 bedrooms, the bathroom, the kitchen, and then the living area. But I wanted to answer your question, and let me just go back to those pictures that I literally took this morning, and you can actually see. So that there is the entrance to the clubhouse now, and then that is, I mean, you can now starting to see what happened with the gardens. It was looking absolutely magnificent, with the pool and out towards the trees. That's actually me looking back towards the clubhouse. Now, you know, I showed you the artistic impression. Well, that's actually what it looks like. I'm sure the guys in Cape Town are pretty marveled by it, because I certainly was. You know, a month or so ago, it was all brown with the Johannesburg winter, and look how well beautiful and green it's come already. And then these are just, sorry, some pictures looking around just different ways, out looking back towards the clubhouse there. And then here, actually, I'm out on site. You can see how the trees are all so green. Most of those trees are staying. You can actually see the red pegs there that are in the ground, and effectively they've built the blocks around the trees, basically. So you can see the different greenery coming through. Again, looking back to the clubhouse, just a whole bunch of pictures I took just so people get a feel. And that there was my attempt at being artistic at the end in terms of all the green flowers coming through in the trees. So it's really, really looking magical. For those of you that have been to site, from July through to now, I would highly recommend going back, because it really is looking good at the moment, basically. I'm sure, Jaco, you would say that, because it's improved even the last 2 weeks with all the rains, basically.
Yeah, definitely, Scott. I've been there about 2 weeks ago, and it really changed a lot. It was completely dull when I was there, and now it looks fantastic, really.
Yeah.
Scott, do we have any questions that we can go to?
Let me just look through here. We've got a couple of questions.
Okay.
What will be the expected rent per month? We're looking at from about 5,000 to 5,500, depending on the unit that someone will actually be looking to purchase. And I've also got a whole lot of questions here, Tembi, that different people asked. Sorry, give me 2 seconds, because I highlighted all the important ones. There's a person here that will be looking to purchase in the next, hang on, let me just get their names for you. So it's Mr. and Mrs. Chalkcare, and they'll be looking to invest in the next 1 to 3 months. And what do they do if they're not actually wanting to live in the property? Hopefully, Mr. and Mrs. Chalkcare, we've answered a lot of your questions, from an investment perspective, and how we can actually assist, from the investment. You don't necessarily need to be in Johannesburg. We can assist you, even if you live internationally. Both companies and Hugo are geared up to deal with people internationally. There's another question here from Jimmy Chandia. Wanted more details about the 100% financing. I think Hugo went through that in a lot of detail, so hopefully that's been answered. Mr. Sylvester Okoloma says, please can I have this home? You can, but you will need to get a mortgage and ultimately buy it. Marine to Blanche has said, what are the predicted rentals and the monthly payments? Again, just to reiterate, you're looking at about 5,500 for rent and about 7,000 for your mortgage, basically. And let me just see if there's this person would like to invest internationally and locally. We can certainly help them. Can you please provide me with a street address? Do you want to give the details there, Tim?
Street address would be number 17 South Way Road in Calvin.
Okay. And I mean, again, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to bring up the website now, but if you go to calvinmanor.co.za, there's actually maps, and it's very easy to find in terms of actually printing, basically. And I think this person's on the wrong webinar. They said they're looking for a 1-bedroom flat or apartment in Morningside. Anyway, when we get something in Morningside, we'll get hold of Melissa and see how we can actually be of assistance. There's one other question that's come through here from a gentleman by the name of John. And Hugo, maybe you can assist with this. Do you actually see all the banks coming with 100% mortgages coming back in the near future?
Scott and John, to answer you on that, it's a tough one. I tend to think, let's handle Standard Bank first and then Absa, because the other two are already on 100%. Standard Bank can offer you, or they do offer already, to customers approaching them directly via their call center or their private banker if they bank with Standard Bank or the branch. They give preference to their own clients, but you can get up to 100% loans directly from Standard Bank if you don't make use of a originator or one of their mobile originators on the road. Absa, they offer anything up to 95% at the present moment. It's a tough one with Absa with the Barclays connection. I don't know what the view out of the UK is towards Absa, and the competition obviously is going to be fierce down here with FNB, FNB, Nedbank and Standard Bank offering 100%. So I tend to think they'll need to join the wagon and jump on it, otherwise they're going to lose out massively. They are the leaders currently with about 30 to 33% of the market in the Homelands area. So feeling-wise, it's a tough one, but I tend to think they'll have to come to the party as well, otherwise they're going to lose out business-wise. And yeah, so maybe not this year, maybe early next year. The decision chain obviously is a bit longer with people like Barclays involved with that. But yeah, in the long run, early next year, maybe they will be on the 100% loan to valuation ratio as well.
Perfect. Hugo, while you got you online there, another question's come through from Dylan Higa. Sorry if I've pronounced that wrong. It says, at 100% finance mortgages, when will the rent be given to cover the mortgage, and will this be possible at some stage?
Okay, if you kick off from our example earlier, 700,000, and your levy that you quoted 493, let's call it 500, so you're talking about 7.5. Let's say you said the expected rentals is between 5 and 5.5. If you let's say you get a tenant in for 5,000 that you clear every month, that means you've got a shortfall of about 2,500. The next year, if let's say the conditions stay the same bond-wise, so your interest rate stays stable, so there's no change in that. So that's going to be my scenario. I'm not going to after year one, if you get a 10% increase, you're up to 5.5. So if you work on that scenario, 500 Rand per annum, that's about 5 years that you'll be even. At that stage, you must your property is worth in 5 years from now. If you, for example, 8% growth or 10% growth, which is easy figures, that's about 70,000, and I'm elaborate on that anymore. But if you just take 70,000 each year for 5 years, you're talking 350,000. Your property should be worth in the region of about R1 million, and your repayments, if you make your payment every month, in 5 years' time, you should have come down 50 or 100,000 at that stage. What you also can do, just to elaborate a bit more, is at a certain stage you can, especially if you're an investor, go for a second loan and you take out an amount and you use, where you don't actually physically use the money. You take some of the money to basically recoup your money in the property, and the rest of the funds you deposit back into your bond to make up and make sure that the shortfall that you out of your pocket is not that much. So with that factor, it's difficult to explain it over the VC. The break-even point should be 3 years, maybe even a little bit shorter, depending on the growth of the property. But I'll also leave details, and anybody is welcome to contact me.
Perfect, guys. I'm going to cut it short there. We have gone over the hour, and I think it's very important to try and keep these things to the hour. There is one last question from Fulvio Stradom, who was asking mainly about the quality of the developer. And I think the important thing, Yaku, and I'm certainly, MSP has been a big player. They've won a whole lot of awards in before in terms of construction and everything else. I also, in terms of Aquacore, I actually live in an Aquacore development. I can't say too much more about it. She's asked for a number of things here in terms of references of previous developments, feedback on sectional title, body corps, trustees, etc. I mean, certainly, Fulvia, we can assist you with regards to that. There's a lot of track record on different websites, and depending on where you are, there's even projects that you could actually go and view yourself. But, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of questions. But it is, time is of the essence, and I'm very conscious of keeping to time. I do just want to bring up the different contacts so that people know. The most important website is www.calvinmanor.co.za. That's got all the details basically about the developers, about the project, the maps, how to get there. It'll even have this video once we record it and put it onto the web. It will be up there in the next day or so. You've got the RPS Invest website. You've got the UVest website. There's some telephone numbers there, 011-463-0588, which is the office number here in Johannesburg. And then also, I think this is actually Tembi's number, 078-302-1468. And then really in terms of just keeping up to date with information, we've got a Twitter account, and there is a bit of bribery there. We are giving 2 tickets away to the World Cup Final 2010. I know from Yaku's side, UVest also have a very sophisticated website. The details are up there. You can go and you can really start to analyze. We work together closely. I've worked with Yaku now for nearly 5 years. So there's a tremendous amount of experience. And between the two of us, we can certainly provide you with a solution. Hugo, as I said to you, comes with a very experienced background from ABSA and really understands what's going on in the market and will be able to assist you. So, on that basis, I'm just going to bring it back to the screen here for Tembi to, let's just go to the 2 guys in Cape Town first, Tembi, and so that they can say cheers to everyone. I do want to keep it within the hour, and we have run over nearly 10 minutes. So Yaku and Hugo, you're on the screen there. Just want to say thank you very much for your time this evening, and hopefully everyone really appreciated it.
Thank you very much, Scott, for presenting it. Thank you very much, and to all the people that's working, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Same from. Have a great evening.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. And then Tembi, thanks again for your time. I think it's always very valuable for first time. Sorry, I'm just going to get you up on the screen there. It's always very valuable, for people to be able to get your insight. You haven't bought property before, so some of the questions that Hugo and Yaku and I might miss, you get right to the point. So I want to thank you very much for your time and extracting a lot of information out of us.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. And one thing that I'd like to remind everyone of is that we are having a Calvin Manor public launch on the 17th and the 18th of October. 17th would be a Saturday and the 18th would be a Sunday. So please come down to site. It's going to be fabulous. Scott is going to be doing how to buy a home presentations as well. Everyone, please make sure that you get down to site. It is really a sight to see.
Yeah. No, I understand. I'll back you up, and well remembered on that. On the Saturday, we will be, showing it off. On the Sunday, we'll be showing it off. But on the Sunday, just like we've done tonight, we'll be doing live presentations. And there'll be 2 different ones. One is how to buy a home, which is the entry level. If you're a first-time homeowner. And the second one is how to be a property investor, which is more in-depth, explaining some of the things I explained now in terms of growth and risk and everything. Yaku will be up there if you want to meet Yaku and the team. So, ladies and gentlemen, come down. We can all say the words, but when you come to site and see how magnificent it is, you'll understand why we're all so excited by the opportunity. I want to thank you most to all of you out there, people all over the world. Thanks so much for your time. It's great to have you. Please do us one favor. When you finish now, you're going to be asked for a feedback form. We are only as good as our feedback, and we really want to know what could we do better, What did we do well? It helps us improve. Webinars are the way of the future. I know they're quite new and we're battling with technology, but the more feedback you can give us, the more we can help you. Thank you very much and have a great evening.